Wonderful. Thank you so much for being here. And we're going to wait for another moment to see who shows on up. And then we're going to boogie with this thing here. And all right. Hey, Kath, you doing good? Yay. Good. Glad you're here. And I even have a question of yours that you had asked that I'll try my darndest to answer. And all right, good. Excellent. And we'll see who comes along. And it's okay. Everything's okay. So, hi, Terry. And glad you're here. Thank you for being here, Terry. And let's see here. Oh, my pleasure. My total pleasure, Kathy. Love doing this. And I will give you every answer I can from the depth of my heart. Now we'll just keep this thing going week after week. And over time, we'll see how it develops. So, the first question I got here is from my friend Karen Murray. And Karen, well, first, let me say my name is Mark Ehrlichs. Everyone here knows me. I'm a healer by the grace of God, and this is what I do in my life. And so there'll be there's time for appointments in Colorado. Let people know. I'm trying to stall to wait for more people to come on in. There are appointments available in Colorado. I'm not leaving for another week and a half, I believe, and I'm going to Tucson, Arizona, where there'll be several larger events there. And other than that, we have the apprentice training, the live online apprentice training for 3 days, April 16th, 17th, and 18th. And you can contact Lynn or I, and Lynn will put up the contact information. Can you do that for me, please, Lynn? And she's my liaison, my assistant. She's my virtual assistant as well. She helps me so much. She's in Canada, and she just does a lot, and I appreciate her a whole lot. Okay, we're still stalling here for a little bit, if you don't mind. Other than that, let's see. There's several other events. If you go to my newsletter, please do sign up, and you'll see other things that are going to be listed there. Hi, Eileen. Good to see you. Thanks for coming on by. And I believe that Eileen's in Oregon, if I'm correct. I'm not sure, or Washington State, one or the other. And let's see here. All right, might as well start. My friend Karen, for the first question, she asked me, can you please talk about the importance of not owning a diagnosis versus holding it as a condition? Thank you. I think that's extremely important. There's a lot of people that have been diagnosed with all kinds of things, and I believe it's important not to, thanks, Lynn, I believe it's important not to own any diagnosis ever. If we own it, it's ours, and we get to keep it, we get to covet it, and do whatever we want with it. It's only a situation to be worked with, I believe. And as you take it to heart, as you take the diagnosis to heart, we believe it, we ignore certain things of it, we deny it, but we still own it. And so I think the idea is to be objective and allow it or believe it has to be when we're owning it, we believe that it has to be us, but The idea is not to, hi, Diane, the idea is not to necessarily own it anymore and to claim it. I'm not saying deny it, but do allow it and as a situation, but it doesn't have to, you don't have to believe that it's yours. So if you see it objectively and observantly, generally, we can find ways to work with it and where we're not getting so symptomatic from it. Sometimes it's important to use the medical profession. Anyone would be foolish not to say that. And I think that the medical profession does help some people. Hi, Roxy. And other times you may, just know otherwise when going to a medical professional. I also know of people that have been diagnosed with Lou Gehrig's disease, ALS, and they didn't even have it. I also know, these are from professionals, and I also know of people who've, were diagnosed with various diseases, cancers or situations in their body, and they weren't true. Not downing the profession, but what I'm suggesting is to, be careful who you go to, get referrals or whatever to see what they're saying is valid, and then work with the situation and see what's real for you in your life or what's available. And not all doctors know everything, fortunately and unfortunately. And so I remember one time there was a woman that came to me many, many years ago. She was in Chicago, and in an appointment, she said, "Mark, I have cancer. Can you help me?" I said, "I don't know." And so as we're sitting there, something came to me, and it was in the springtime, and it was in Chicago, and I said, "Do you have a house?" She says, "Yes." And I said, "Do you have dandelions, being the spring and all like that, like everyone else?" She says, "Oh yeah, we got a lot of them." And I said, "Okay, pick dandelions." She said, "What?" And I said, "Start in your front yard, and every single second there, I apologize that there was a blackout. Um, every single time you pick a dandelion, pick it with the roots, and pick it from the roots, and get every single morsel of that root out of there." And I said, every single time you do get every little piece of that root out of there, you're picking a piece of cancer out of yourself. And she said, "Okay, I can do that." And so she came back 2 weeks later, about 4 weeks later, with the follow-up appointment. And as she was starting to tell me about how she felt, she said, every time I picked a dandelion out of my front yard, I felt a piece of it, like you suggested, coming out of me. She really took the exercise to heart. And I said, "Great, well, how did it go with it all?" And she says, "Well, after I finished all the front yard, there were maybe about 100 dandelions in the front yard. She went to the backyard." And I said, "Fantastic." And I said, "Did you experience, the elimination out of your body or whatever?" She said, "Yes, she did. Every single root that she picked of every dandelion." And then she went to the backyard, and then she, over the next several days, started going to every single neighbor's yard and started picking all these dandelions out of it. And she let them know what she was doing. She was real diehard with it, and it meant everything to her. And which is really super, super important for her. That was her exercise for her situation. It just came out in spirit, or God knew or divinity knew what was correct for her, and it worked. And it was 2 months later that she came back. Not a month later. It was 2 months later, and she said they found no trace of cancer in her. And but working with someone, um, and this is a question that someone also has a little while I'll express and read. In working with someone with cancer, um, it's when I work with them the first time, I always tell them that I'd like to see you again. People may feel change immediately, but that doesn't mean anything to me. What's important is what they tell me later, and that's what I go after, is that change. Uh, it doesn't matter to me if great miracles happen right away. I don't care, because it may be a great miracle in someone's mind, but people go on in life, and there's other things that culminate from their situations, unless there's a change in life. And so what I do, if I work with someone that might have had cancer, I know inside that they may have changed in some way or another. They may have experienced something in some way or another. But at the same time, hi Patty, but at the same time, I also know that cancer waits for what I've done in that person's mind to kind of get sidetracked. And so the person's life will go back to what they were before at times. And um, so I tell a person, hey, look, it's important, if you don't mind, to see me again in 5 to 7 months, because that's when the mind of the cancer usually waits until, and and they may have a reoccurrence, and it happens also, say, quite often, not all the time, but quite often with the chemos and the other remedies. It comes back 5 to 7 months after that. It begins, and people notice the sensations that they had before, or a sense inside of them that maybe I should get checked out or something. Even though it's not always detectable, it may be detectable then. And so I always tell a person, if you see me for this, see me again in 5 to 7 months, for sure. And let's just knock the darn thing out. And that's what usually does it. Um, Not all the time, but quite often with people. So, in any case, everyone is unique, and there's a mind out there. And so we go back to our normal thinkings, and we fall back into old patterns, if that should be a causal of the cancer, or who knows. Who knows? Roxy, I need to ask the divine what my body to eliminate the fat and inflammation. Interesting. So much is happening. I can't see where it says see more. It won't allow me to. But in any case, let me see if I can see what you're asking here on this. Apologize for that. Let me go to this, and here's the gathering. Yay! No, I don't see anything. Well, I don't know how to answer your question, Roxy. I can't see it all, and that's okay. If you would like to have, there's a lot of new and good life happening. That's awesome, and that changes the body, the physiology, the biology, the neurology as well. And inflammation, to me, in my understandings and experience, denotes irritation. So if the irritations of life are going, then the body also has a huge potential for healing. And please do keep that in mind. Okay, yeah, I understand. And so, yes, just keep in mind, though, that inflammation is irritation, and uh, that's what my understanding is. And so, a lot of things when we're in a healing crisis, and that's what I call it, as a healing crisis. Um, that means things are coming out as well, even more so. That means, to me, if they're coming out, they're eliminating out, or they're giving us a sign to take care of something to eliminate it. And so that's good, Roxy. All right, great, great. My friend Myrna, uh, sh- she says, I get what you mean about being close to others. We are all flowing with the same energy that sustains life. Yes, very, very important. How can anyone truly be separated if we all have that same life energy in common? Very simply, in my perspective, we have free will and we choose to be separate. Uh, it's what we do in life. We have our own homes. We want to protect them. We have our animals. We want them to like us. We have our friends that were very uh, selected by us, et cetera, et cetera. And hi, Myrna. I'm answering your question. And so these are the things that we do, and it's what we do. We, I believe, that as we learn more to meditate, the personalization of everything is kind of fallen away, and it turns into that more global understanding and attribute. And I think that meditation helps us to learn how to be more indifferent and impersonal, just like God is, or the Creator is, or the Nameless One is, or Universal Mind is. It's more impersonal, but God is not a personal God, and it's like if we tell a lie, it's not waiting for us to tell a lie, or if we swear, it's not waiting for us to swear so it can strike us down with lightning. Uh, we're an energy, we're of it, and that's more globalized. And we're of the same mind, uh, but we also have been endowed with what I refer to as free will. And my teachers and other uh, worldly or universal worldly beings have understood as well. It's free will. Free will is something that we get to utilize to try to get to know ourselves here, but we abuse it and separate ourselves. My personalization of it all. And so um, we all have the same life force energy in common, true. And it's, how we from birth learn how to use it, and um, how we adapt in friendships. We can be as separate as we want, and we can be as arrogant as we want as well. And but if we, know inside that there's something so much greater that we're a part of, we begin to form more into the less separate, uh, because we find ourselves more in common in that mind of that divinity, of that godliness, or the creator, or whatever, divine mind, whatever you want to call it. We're the ones who separate ourselves always, and I think the key is learning the objectivity and being observant in that objectivity. And this is also from Myrna, the other part. And during last week's Facebook Live, you were answering questions about how to position your hands while healing others. I want to go over this again as well, and how healing doesn't come from us but through us. That's what I totally believe. If it was us, we wouldn't be a part of this greater mind that gives us life. We wouldn't exist. We'd be even less than Neanderthal if it was just us. We wouldn't have free will. And so, my understanding and things that I can relate to. And she writes, how healing doesn't come from us but through us. She was quoting me. And she wrote also, I experienced this because as I watched you and listened, I felt a sensation like pins and needles traveling through my left arm and exit through the palm of my left hand. And when this was done, my heart felt so much better, at peace and quiet. That's because we're being conscious of that energy that's moving through us, coming forth from us. And it's always going to the correct places. But sometimes we need someone else to help us to recognize that. And I mean recognize, to see it in another way. And she wrote, I had been experiencing some stress in my heart area and was monitoring it closely. And just by listening to you, I learned that you were explaining that we are the vessel for healing to come through us. It's true. Yes, we are. And we also have it available not only for us, as I did that with you, Myrna, we also have it not only for us, we can use it for ourselves, the more objective and observant we are, but we can also use it and help others. And I teach this in the apprentice trainings and other classes as well. There's workshops on this stuff. And so if you're interested in anyone in April, it's a 3-day extensive. There's more that she wrote. And she wrote that we are the vessel for healing to come through us. In this case, it came through you for me, and I was receptive enough for my body to be the vessel of this healing. Yes, you were, by not knowing what I was doing. You were. And so you were being receptive enough. And when not knowing, I mean you getting out of the way. When a person gets out of the way and it's no longer predetermining what they're going to say, how they're going to say it, what they're going to do, why, how, where, or anything else, when we don't know, that's when we're allowing something more to happen. My perspective of life. And you were the vessel of healing to pass through me for you. And she wrote, I imagine that the same receptivity to receiving healing would be the same receptivity to be the willing vessel for healing to pass for others. Yes, that's what it's about. And it's finding that void where it's no different than, say, we've tried everything and something's happening with our body. We've tried everything, we've gone every route possible, and there's nothing else I can do. There's no other place I can go for feeling better. And so I have nothing left. So take my life, God. you know, take it. I have nothing left in my life, and my body is totally out, and my mind is totally given up. So then I usually say, what are you going to do about it, God? And how are you going to handle this? Because it's not me anymore, because I've tried everything. And that's when there's a intercession, an interaction from that divinity that takes over, because I've tried it and it just didn't work my way, and there's no other recourses. That's when sometimes we're led to uh, the correct doctor. That's when we're led to the right practitioner, whatever form of healing you want to get into. That's when you are led to understanding something that you weren't understanding before, prior. And so it's that total letting go. That's what it's really about. Hey, Scott, good to see you here, my friend. And with CEUs, Roxy, I don't. I'm not signed up with CEUs yet. I should be able to do that. Lynn, if you can help me to remember to apply for the CEUs, I would appreciate that. If you can make a note of that, please. So, and my friend Jason, he asked, is there a chronic disease, or does it all stem from emotions or beliefs? And I believe all chronic disease happens because of past events and patterns. That's chronic, a continuous situation. And I'm not saying all of them, but most chronic situations do happen. Chronic aches and pains I'm referring to, or chronic situations that keep coming up again, go away for a while, or they'll stay continuous. And chronic, I believe most often, not all the time, but most often goes back to childhood event. And when we experience something, we might have knocked our funny bone, and we experience the buzzing or the tickling sensation inside, or something, or a numbing sensation, and then a couple years later you knock it again, you remember that, and it becomes in a sense a pattern, or a potential future event to be worked with. And quite often we come up with a lot of things 20, 30, 40, 50 years later, of these dynamics that we experienced at a very young age, or a little bit older. So, and what happens is these things are like, as minor as they are or as major as they are shock traumas. And so please keep that possibility in your mind, that they're shock traumas when they happen. Even a spiritual experience can be a shock trauma, but it's how we process it, how we let it impregnate itself into us and stay there. And so we have to understand that shock traumas, though, if we when one should happen in our life, as minor or major as it is, if we can collect ourselves for the moment, then we can begin the healing crisis. And that's when, say, someone gives you a knuckle sandwich in the arm, and initially it turns dark, dark blue, and then after that it turns say a green, and then a yellow, and then it starts to, or an orange, and then a yellow, and then it starts to go away. Well, it's the same thing with the healing crisis. If we can collect ourselves in our minds for the moment and realize what had just happened, then we're not harboring it, within ourselves anymore, and it won't be a pattern to be dealt with later in life, or a continuation of a pattern that had been in our life prior to that. So we have this tool available to us to help to dull and to eliminate shock trauma, where it's not going to be processed in our body to stay there in our memory. So, hey, Kathy. And so we have this. It's available to us as a tool to use. And oftentimes when I'm working with a person, what I'll do is I'll go to a specified area, an affected area or whatever, and I'll have my hands on or near them, depending upon the situation, and I'll be scanning, and then I'll come up with specific. Then I go within myself and I try to, as deep as I can, to go as deep as I can into that, the mind of whatever is there. And I tell it to take a hike, get out of Dodge, or to change, transform, where I teach people how to manipulate and work with energies. And so we have that ability to do that, and it's a part of us. So, in any case, we can do these things, and we should be doing these things as healers. And or if you feel that you are, but you don't know how to do it or what to do it, I can teach you. It's so easy. And we all have that light to do it. And when we recognize that it's not us, it is that light that's coming forth, that divinity within that's coming forth and moving through, that's all that really matters, because it will take over with direction. And it does, those things, Jason, do actually at times stem from emotional situations and beliefs situations that have been brought into our life to create the shock trauma. So even with, in my perception, even with belief systems and emotional problems as well, even if there are no physiological, biological, neurological problems or situations, it can affect the emotional as well in our behaviors. So, Charles wrote, thank you for these gatherings. It's great to go back and listen to the tapes on the YouTube. Yes, they are reposted. So please, I feel in what I'm sharing with people, if you want to hear it, you should have availability to hear it again. And so it is going to be on YouTube. And there'll be other times I'll be giving classes of different sorts, or different things on the site Spiritual Healing, in this group on Facebook, this private group, to just 2-minute things or 3-minute things or 10-minute things, or whatever, or even a full class. They are going to be, either paid for, or where there'll be special permit to go into the YouTube channel on that, or they'll be free, like this one is. And so we'll see. I think that what I have to share is important for some people, and so in any case, he also wanted to say that his knees are both so much better, and I can breathe without my chest bone hurting. Yay! Which is wonderful. A love and light. Thank you so much. And Myrna, she wrote, this was such a nurturing and healing experience. Thank you, Mark. My honor, my pleasure. And I always want to give as much as I can from my heart. And let's see. Um, During last week's Facebook Live, you were answering questions about how to position your hands. Oh, I like this one, and I want to go over this one again. I might have talked about it last week, but how to position your hands when healing others. How healing doesn't come from us, but through us. I experienced this because I watched you and listened to you, and I felt the sensations like pins and needles traveling through my arm and through the palm of my hand when this was done. Um, and my heart felt so much better in peace, with peace and quiet. I had been experiencing some stress in my heart and was monitoring it closely and listening to you. I learned that you were explaining that we are the vessel for the healing to come through us. Yes, yes. And if this case, or in this case, it came through you for me, etc. And I'm hoping to make sense. If I'm sounding confusing, please forgive and accept. Of course it makes sense. Totally, of course. And so, as far as the positioning of the hands, what you were initially asking about, um, uh, there's, it doesn't matter. Really, it's allowing either one hand or both hands on a person or off the person according to what you're really perceiving, not what you think you're perceiving. And it takes learning how to wonder about something, and we can't wonder unless we're um, really curious about something. And when we're curious, we're not taking control, we're not taking charge of anything. And so the idea is to learn how to wonder. And so what I've done, uh, and quite often I can put my hands near someone, and I'll get a perception to touch or to not touch, or to put both hands or one hand. And I also know that putting one hand is just as good as putting two at times, or most often. And there's other times that someone's in front of me, and it doesn't need any hands. It just needs to have me focus, and then say to the person, "How does it feel now?" And they'll say, "Oh my God, how did you do that?" It's nothing. Even when we're doing this, even when we're putting hands on, it comes from intent, and that's where healing comes from. And it's the heart is what is the catalyst, is the fire for it to move, and is keeping that in mind. I'm going hoarse, and I apologize. So, the intent is coming from the heart, and that's all that really matters. And so, if we have an intent of this person, we're wanting them to feel better. It's allowing that godliness to take over and observing it while it does. Otherwise, we're taking control, and it's going to last for either a short while or it won't work at all. And when it lasts for a short while, it can be just for the immediate or soon after, or maybe for a day or two. But the person's going to come back to see you, or they're going to go to someone else, or they're going to give up on everything, and so, or go to a doctor, whatever, they do. So we have that ability to, when we have a thought that's, we can, if we purposefully create a thought of what it would be like for them to be more whole in their life. If we can hold that thought, and sometimes we need to put our hands on them and say, "Okay, God, how are you going to do this for that person?" Or, "Okay, boss, how are you going to do it for that person?" Or, "Okay, universal mind, how are you going to do it for that person?" Or Yahweh, whatever you want. What are you going to do about this? And then you watch it flip from the defective side to the from the deflective or the destructive side to the constructive. You can hold that constructive thought long enough, the divinity takes over. It knows what to do, how to get it to that place. Otherwise, you can say, oh, light heals. That's nice. Um, but you'll notice that the whole world, a lot of it out of the whole world is sick or hurting. So how come the light didn't heal everything now? Because we have this thing called free will, and we're a part of it, and it wants us to get to know ourselves, that we can function, and work with people. And you have, even people that think that they have a calling for healing do have a calling for it. And so I say, pursue it and do these things, try these things out. I'll gladly teach you. Gladly teach you. So, my friend Mark, excuse me, I'm just so hoarse. My friend Mark, I've been diagnosed with a rare neurological disease. If someone asks me about it, I never say that I have it, only that I've been diagnosed with it. And I personally would not let anyone know if I had a rare neurological disease, but unless it's an obvious one and they should ask for it, and then I would gladly, say also, and I think he's right on, that he's been diagnosed with it. And I wouldn't say that for a pity party, but saying that you have it is owning it. And so I think it's going to lead into this next question, I believe. Well, in any case, I'll go back to this. I think that having something is definitely owning it. And that's a conversation that we're having, and usually it's for control or as far as influencing people. And also it keeps us in that mind to be controlled, for control and to be controlled. There's a lot more I could say about that, but I want to skip that for now. Most importantly, the idea, these things make us who we are if we allow them to. And I choose in my life, and Mark has chosen in his life, not to be that neurological disease. I think that's awesome. Then we find ourselves being able to live a fuller, more complete life. And even if we do have a situation in our life that might be a disease, we still can function, we still can enjoy, we still can live. That's what's important. That's what we're here to do. To function, to live, to enjoy. And to find out about ourselves, to explore. That's what we're here for. And I say, go for it. Take advantage of it in every way you can in your life. And not to be that specific disease or situation or infirmity. And I've seen many of diseases and situations or infirmities that have been arrested where they no longer progress and the person still has it, but they no longer are debilitated by it, not only physiologically, but mentally. And oftentimes we find out that the mental debilitation contributes to the physical as well. So, and the disease doesn't make us who we are. And my last words on that. Karen, my dear, dear friend, she was writing to Mark, and on the site, on the group page, And she said, I hold my diagnosis as a condition, as many healers will also, because a condition is easier to move through. Society puts an equal sign and attaches that means you are going to die or whatever, or you're going to be, down in some way or another. And with her situation, it was cancer, and pity to a cancer diagnosis. It does not hold the energy nor vibration of the wholeness and health. It doesn't, not at all. The cancer, everyone has cancer. There's no body, no physical body on this earth that doesn't have cancer cells within them. But the I also have learned to, or I have learned that as we worry about things, or as we're grown to learn how to worry about things, or we dislike something or hate something, that also attacks in some way the enzyme that encompasses the cancer cells, and it eats away at that enzyme, and the cancer is loosened. It's free. And if we have hidden agendas within ourselves, the idea is to get to know ourselves and who we really are in our hearts, and that's what matters. And then all these other things in life, they kind of just fall away, and they don't. The diseases don't have the importance within us as we get to know ourselves. And the remnants in the back of the mind aren't fears anymore. That's what's important as well. And that there's peace in our life. That's what's important as well. And we find that peace. Very, very important. Lindsay. Hey, Leo. Good to see you. Be sure to watch it from the beginning later on. Please do. Lindsay wrote, my kids have asked me to go to my kids have asked me to go to church because they have a friend that goes, so they go with their friends. It's a non-denominational Christian church. Then it's not a non-denominational Christian church, but not a unity. I am struggling with the teachings of that they have as we are sinners. Oh my God. It sounds very true Christian. Not that it's wrong, but it's not my way of living. That we are sinners. And they hate the flesh and all of this belief in separation. I don't think I can keep subjecting them to that, she wrote. Personally, I wouldn't either. It's my own personal agenda in life is not to get into to hate the flesh, or that we're all sinners. I think that as we get to know ourselves, that eliminates a lot of those concepts and fears and judgments, and how to be so selective and frozen in our way. And otherwise, we're just, putting God in a box, and nothing exists outside of that box. That doesn't hold water for me. I totally understand, and in my own personal preference, agree with you, Lindsay. Patty, oh, here you go, Patty. Patty's questions for tonight. When working with healing energy on a person with cancer, do you work the same as with other types of diseases? Thanks, Mark. Great question. I was just telling a story a little while ago before you came on, I think. I'm not sure. I work with cancer differently at times. sometimes, not all the time, but there's times that when my hands are on a person's head while I'm asking a blessing on them for the initial start of the appointment, um, and which can even be done during a phone appointment. But when my hands are on top of a person's head, I I wait, and as I'm asking this blessing, at the same time I'm waiting and saying, you know, okay, show me something pertaining to their life. Or sometimes I'll even before the appointment, um, what I'll do is I'll contemplate or meditate or something like that, saying, okay, show me what I'm getting into here, and how to work with the person appropriately. Sometimes I'm shown something, sometimes I'm not. And so, as my hands are there, if I am shown something, it might be a dynamic that happened at a young age. But when you're seeing something, what you're witnessing is little fragments of an event that might have happened. And during the event, the person might have been in shock right there or something, or they might have been being beaten or something. But you're seeing the perfection of it. What we're being shown is of what people call heaven, and we're here on earth, and so it's going to be a little bit different, a little bit different, and Um, so we have to take that and we can ask a person, if you weren't being shown that, uh, I mean, let me take that back. You are being shown because it's okay to tell a person. If you're not being shown, there's many a times that I say, okay, show me the situation, God, or boss, and the boss will say, none of your business, and so I'm not going to be shown. Or it'll say, just keep on working. I won't get anything. I won't get information, and that's fine with me. And so I'll just keep on working because it knows better. So it's going to take over and do the more correct thing instead of what I want or what I think. Um, Whatever anyone thinks of that, that's my way of doing things. And it seems to help most people. Um, I don't, in working with cancers versus other, again, I'll repeat what I said earlier, is that I try to um, um, work with a person a second time. And I think that's important when working with the cancer, because as soon as, say they might have received a healing right there, um, they'll leave and they'll go on with their life. Something may be different in their life and the way they approach it. They might find themselves participating in life differently. But it's usually 5 to 7 months later that I always realize that the cancer is still outside of the body, waiting for the time to come back. And that's why you hear of a lot of people that have been cured from cancer say, oh my God, it's 5 to 7 months later and I'm starting to feel symptoms again, or I just, I went to the doctor and it's found somewhere else in my body, a different type of cancer or whatever. It's not all the time, but at times, quite often. And a person has to go through the treatments again, whatever, or the surgeries or whatever. And so I know that it's here outside of the body waiting for that perfect opportune time to come back in at times, my perception of things. And it seems to be correct as far as time-wise uh, and event-wise as well, supposedly. I don't make any claims, I don't diagnose, and I don't prescribe. And so these are my experiences. And so, and I've worked with lots and lots of people that have had cancer and a diagnosis or prognosis or whatever. And So I'll work with it again in 5 to 7 months, maybe a little before that or a little after that or whatever. And there are decent results with people. And so um, it is working with cancer differently. It's a more stubborn mind, and it has an intent of coming back. And it sometimes denotes our stubbornness as well. Not saying that the cause of cancer is stubbornness, but it sometimes denotes it. So, good questions. Roxy wrote, is it possible that we can assist a facility Divine Healing with the recent outbreak, fear around the coronavirus? Yeah, don't drink Corona beer. No, I'm kidding. That was a joke. I like Corona sometimes. But in any case, the beer, that is. I don't let it be such a... my pleasure, Patty. I don't... I'm conscious of it, that there is this thing going around. I also know there's other influenzas going around as well, flus, but this one is more severe in the outcome when people, it's in people's minds as well. And so I don't get involved. This is my answer. I don't get involved in the excitement or the extreme of it. I'm conscious of it, and I always wash my hands naturally anyway. And I've hugged many of people that were sick with contagions of various sorts. And that was funny, Myrna, wasn't it? And Patty. And nothing has happened. And people say, "Oh, stay away from me. I got this or I got that." I know I'm coming. I want to come from my heart as deeply as I can, and that's what matters to me. And I don't get excited about those other things, the worries and the fears. I don't want them to be a part of my life. Sure, I'm conscious of them, but they're not a part of my life, and that's the way that I choose. Let's see, it's 10:57 already. Oh my God. Well, I'm so thankful that everyone showed up tonight, and it's going to vary in numbers. So there's going to be lots of reactions and interactions and stuff like that from time to time. And I'll answer as many questions as I can. And please do keep in mind, though, that you'll be able to see this in about maybe within the half an hour or 15 minutes or 10 minutes. It'll be posted. This live video will be posted. And please do me a favor, put in # and say "you rock" or something. And that will help it to get out there more into the internet land and Facebook land. And so if you aren't already, please do sign up for the private group of Spiritual Healing with Mark Ehrlichs, and I'll accept you unless you're not a real you. And I don't know what else to say or to talk about, and I'm totally thankful. Thank you, Lauren. Good to see you. I'm happy you were here. Good to see you. And we got people from all over the country, and we even have a couple people from out of the country, which is really neat, Australia and China. And join our group. I'll be doing lots of neat postings. And put # you do rock, yes, or you rock, yes, 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 yes. And thank you, and blessings to you. And I am honored. And please do, if you missed a lot of it or some of it or part of it, or you just want to see it again, it's going to be posted in a few minutes. Thank you so much. Blessings.